The morning my boss announced his retirement, I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I just stared at the half-eaten biscotti in my hand like it suddenly had meaning. 23 years I'd worked in that glass coffin of a building, my name not on the door, but damn near engraved in every win that place celebrated. Forecasting Team of the Year? I rebuilt their dashboard from scratch. Emergency board prep in Q3. I was the one massaging PowerPoint slides, while the leaders were too hungover to remember their own KPIs. Hell, I once ran an all-staff meeting and fixed the projector while the VP was in Cancun learning to paddleboard with interns. So when Rick, my boss, cleared his throat during our team huddle and said, "It's time," I didn't panic. He looked right at me, smiled that exhausted kind of smile a man gives when he's about to hand over his burdens. I nodded back like, "Yeah, Rick, I got you." I was 54, still wore heels, still beat most of the team to the parking lot every morning, and for the first time in decades I thought, maybe this ends right. QHR, enter stage left, clapping like trained seals and making vague noises about fresh perspectives and grooming new leadership. That's when Emma started showing up everywhere, tagged in internal newsletters, sitting in on exec briefings she had no business attending, giggling with the CFO like they were in the same tax bracket. Emma, 29, the same girl who once asked me if spreadsheets auto-filled based on vibes. I trained her, showed her where the shared drive was. Hell, I proofed her first budget doc so she wouldn't look like a deer in front of a firing squad. Now she's getting mentorship lunches with the same execs who used to forget my name in strategy meetings. The kicker? She starts calling me Liv, like we're old war buddies instead of her quietly disposable predecessor. And just before we go further, hey, if you're one of the 97% who listens to these stories but hasn't hit that subscribe button yet, come on, sugar. It's like leaving your car running in a Walmart parking lot. Costs nothing, but it keeps the engine humming, and trust me, it means the world to the team sharing these battles. Back to the story. They kept telling me I was next in line, like I was some dusty raffle ticket waiting to be drawn. Rick even said, "You'll be perfect for this. You've basically been doing the job already." Which, true, I'd been his shadow for years. When he was out, I kept the wheels turning. When he was in, I kept him from driving us into a ditch. But then things got foggy. My annual review, which was supposed to land in March, delayed. My check-ins with HR, rescheduled. And then, like stale air creeping in under a locked door, Emma started using phrases I'd only ever heard in leadership briefings: high-level visibility, organizational impact, strategic presence. None of it made sense unless you knew the backdoor conversations. I'd been patient. I'd been loyal. I knew my numbers better than I knew my cholesterol. And still, the gut feeling settled in like a stubborn splinter under my ribcage. Something's off. I wasn't paranoid. I was practiced. There's a difference. And when I saw Emma stroll out of HR with that shiny folder in hand, the same folder they used to welcome new promotions, I didn't say a word. I just smiled, tight, controlled. The storm hadn't started yet, but I could hear thunder in my bones. The next month felt like watching someone else wear your skin to work. At first, it was little things. My calendar invite for the leadership panel vanished. I checked 3 times. Thought maybe I deleted it by accident while rage scrolling through vendor invoices. I pinged Cassandra in HR. She said, "Oh, that was rescheduled indefinitely. Didn't anyone tell you?" With the same tone you'd used to apologize for forgetting someone's birthday on Facebook. Then came the silence. Not a dignified, earned quiet like the calm after battle. This was the foggy, slow-drowning kind. Meetings I was always in suddenly filled up due to room capacity. My performance review, already postponed once in Q1, got kicked again, with the excuse that your track record speaks for itself. Which, frankly, sounds sweet until you realize it's corporate, for we already made the decision, just not in your favor. But the cherry on top? I heard it secondhand in the break room, over stale coffee and someone microwaving fish like a war crime. A finance analyst I barely knew whispered, "Crazy Emma got on the shortlist out of nowhere." I thought Olivia was a lock for that role, but apparently her name wasn't even up there. I froze, mid-sip, burned my tongue. I walked back to my desk and stared at my screensaver for 5 straight minutes, not even blinking, just click, 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 the sound of time eating itself because I had been on the shortlist. I knew that. Rick confirmed it. He said he'd advocated for me, used those exact words. Now I was hearing I never even made the list. That's when the confusion cracked open, and underneath it was dread. See, I've lived long enough to know the difference between a mistake and a maneuver. A mistake can be corrected. A maneuver means someone's already calculated how much blood they can get out of you before you notice the knife. I didn't go to HR. I didn't yell. I didn't start a Slack war. I started documenting. I opened a fresh notebook, old school, spiral-bound, red cover like blood on carpet. Wrote the date, the time, every missed invite, every rescheduled meeting. I screenshotted Slack convos, downloaded email threads, cross-referenced file access timestamps. Quiet, neat, meticulous, like a woman organizing funeral flowers while the body's still warm. They were playing chess. I was memorizing the board. The strangest part? Nobody seemed to notice I was watching them watch me. Emma got chirpier. HR got more evasive. Even my own teammates gave me that pity-laced smile you reserve for someone who's just missed the last life raft. They thought I'd go quietly. They forgot who taught half of them how to do their jobs. By the end of the week, I had a folder titled Timeline Promotion Process. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't scream revenge, it was just facts. Dull, sharp, irrefutable facts. And facts, when arranged just right, cut deeper than betrayal. It was a Thursday, one of those weird April days in Ohio where the sky can't decide between snow or sunstroke. I was heading back from the copier with a stack of monthly reports when Mason from finance, nice guy, couldn't spreadsheet his way out of a paper bag, sidles up next to me like he's about to confess a murder. You know, he says, like we're mid-convo, I was surprised they passed you up. HR said something about long-term viability. You might not stick around long enough to make it worth it. I stopped walking. Just stood there in the middle of the hallway, fluorescent lights flickering like a dying bug zapper above us. Come again? I said, calm as bourbon in winter. He blinked. Oh, sorry, was that not common knowledge? I thought you were retiring soon or something. That's what never mind. He slinked off like a cartoon possum, leaving me there holding a stack of reports that suddenly felt like cinder blocks. Here's the thing, I never, not once, discussed retirement. Not even jokingly. I didn't daydream about beaches or cabins or reading books on porches. I still had fire in me, still had receipts to file and budgets to crush. Retirement was a word other people threw at you when they couldn't imagine you evolving. And now that word was being used to lock a door I hadn't even knocked on. I walked straight past my desk and into the dark corner of the shared computer lab. Yes, we still had one like it was 2004 and fax machines were cutting edge. I logged into the internal portal, pulled up my employee profile, and checked the file access logs. HR had opened my file 3 times in the last 6 weeks. The last time, the day before the promotion shortlist finalization. The file included my birth date, my full employment history. Hell, even that outdated health survey where I admitted I was perimenopausal, but managing well with diet and exercise. Because corporate wellness is just guilt in yoga pants. I stared at the screen. My mouth didn't move. My hands didn't shake, but inside a glacier cracked. Age discrimination wasn't a hunch anymore. It was digital fingerprints on a weapon pointed straight at my career. That quiet fury? It doesn't burn, it chills, freezes every polite bone in your body and replaces them with iron rods. I didn't slam the keyboard. I didn't storm HR's office. I just closed the tab, logged out, and walked back to my desk like nothing happened. I opened that red spiral notebook, flipped to a fresh page. Wrote, April 14, 3:12 p.m. Finance says HR flagged me as not long-term viable. No prior discussion of retirement. Checked profile logs. HR accessed age data multiple times. I underlined the date. Then I wrote 2 words in all caps on the next line. They know. They knew how old I was. They used it. They labeled me like spoiled milk. That's when I stopped grieving the promotion and started planning the burial. I made myself small, not weak, not broken, just small, like a shadow under fluorescent light, present but unbothered. I smiled in meetings, nodded in stand-ups, shared birthday cake in the break room, and pretended I couldn't taste the rot under the frosting. I wore the same blazer, the same polite smirk, and let everyone believe I'd accepted my fate like a good little relic. But behind the curtain, I was a goddamn war room. I spent nights combing through our internal policy handbook like it was sacred scripture. Cross-checked everything from hiring protocol to succession planning language. Found a section I'd skimmed 100 times before, harmless on the surface, but this time it hit different. Candidates for leadership roles should exhibit long-term investment potential and align with generational growth strategies. Generational growth strategies, that's not policy. That's ageist code in a LinkedIn suit. I flagged it, took screenshots, dated it, then dug deeper. I found 2 old job descriptions for my position, one from 2019. One posted just last month when they quietly rebranded the role before handing it to Emma. The older one focused on experience, mentorship, and legacy planning. The new one, buzzwords like agility, digital native, and multi-generational cohesion. They weren't just picking someone else. They were rewriting the damn job around her. Meanwhile, Emma floated through the office like a motivational Pinterest board come to life. Posted affirmations. Podcasts at full volume. Saying things like we're disrupting stagnancy, while color-coding a Google Doc I built with my own 2 hands back when she was still asking if Outlook had a mute button. HR started using strange new phrases in their memos: succession alignment, culture of forward thinking, investment in emerging talent. They spoke about the future like I was already in a rocking chair. I started collecting everything. Screenshots, PDFs, metadata on file edits. I exported Slack conversations, saved calendar logs, flagged timestamps where internal memos were updated without notice, made copies of org charts before they could be quietly tweaked. Every time someone mentioned fit or potential, I made a note of who said it when and to whom. I even reached out to a former colleague who now worked at the EOC, quietly, over coffee in a half-empty Panera where nobody from work would see me, told her the high-level summary. She didn't say much, just nodded and said, start a timeline, save everything, especially what they don't think matters. That line lived in my chest like a second heartbeat, so I did. I built a private folder, password protected, off network, labeled innocuously as quarterly budget reforecast. Inside, over 80 files organized by type and date. Notes, screenshots, recordings, policy excerpts, Slack exports. Even internal PDFs were some HR darling had gone in and added generational potential into hiring criteria without tracking changes. They were sloppy, too used to people like me going quietly. They forgot experience comes with pattern recognition. I'd seen this script before, played out on friends, colleagues, women who got edged out after they stopped giggling at intern jokes. But I wasn't going quietly. I wasn't even breathing loudly. I was gathering kindling, smiling, nodding. Holding the match, I filed on a Tuesday. No champagne, no dramatic monologue, just a clean PDF uploaded through the EOC portal while sipping decaf in my bathrobe. My lawyer, a sharp-as-glass employment litigator named Cora, who used to work for HR departments before she decided she liked vengeance better than policy, had reviewed every line. Twice. "This isn't just age discrimination," she said. "It's arrogance. It left fingerprints all over the murder weapon." Cora didn't do sympathy. She did strategy. And she liked my folder, called it surgical, said most people show up with feelings and a prayer. I showed up with timestamps, metadata, and a digital map of where the bodies were buried. I kept showing up to work like nothing had happened. No one suspected a thing. I still brought in donuts on Fridays, still asked how people's weekends were, still nodded along when Emma shared articles from Fast Company like they were holy scripture. But under that calm, something seismic was shifting. Behind the scenes, Cora was digging. She sent an initial request for internal communications tied to promotion discussions, citing potential policy misalignment. HR thought it was routine legalese, probably figured someone in finance had botched a compliance review. It responded with 5 sanitized documents and a spreadsheet so redacted it looked like it had been edited by the CIA. Cora smirked. They gave us the appetizer. Time for the main course. She filed the formal complaint with the EOC. The clock started ticking. Within 2 weeks, we received anonymous confirmation from someone in IT, no less, that internal Slack threads discussing promotions had not been archived properly, meaning they were still floating in the system, unencrypted and untouched by legal. And those threads, they included my name. Cora filed the subpoena. That's when things got quiet. HR, usually chirpy and overly familiar, suddenly stopped making eye contact in the break room. Cassandra, the same rep who once complimented my shoes and stole my lunch, now avoided the kitchen altogether. I got CC'd on fewer emails. One manager offered to lighten my workload to ease transition stress, even though I hadn't transitioned anywhere but between departments of disappointment. Emma stopped talking to me entirely. Went from "Hey Liv" to suddenly developing tunnel vision every time we passed in the hallway. No one knew yet, not officially. The subpoena hadn't landed on their desk, just their horizon. But people can feel storms even before they see clouds. And this one, it was coming with thunder. Cora called late that Friday night, her voice cool and exact. "I've been sloppy," she said. "I've seen one of the Slack messages. It says, and I quote, she's got that menopausal vibe, not exactly the face of long-term growth." I didn't say anything for a full 10 seconds, just stared at the ceiling, heart slow and steady like a sniper's breath. "That's your smoking gun," she said. "No," I replied. "That's just the lighter fluid," because this wasn't about getting my promotion back anymore. This was about setting the whole rotten script on fire. First real sign they knew something was coming? A calendar invite. Subject, exciting new opportunities for internal growth from Cassandra in HR. I almost laughed. The subject line felt like someone trying to gift wrap a dead fish. "The meeting was just a conversation," she said, in that tight-lipped, Botox-smooth tone HR folks use when they're about to dump you in a career ditch and hand you a granola bar for the ride. We met in the wellness room, which used to be the nursing mother's closet, until they threw a diffuser and a beanbag in it and called it strategic. Cassandra launched into a speech about lateral agility and new verticals within the org. Said they were considering offering me a flexible, non-supervisory transition role, one that freed me from the burden of people management while still celebrating my contributions. Translation: pack up your dignity and crawl into the corner. Quietly. And take a branded water bottle with you. I smiled, tilted my head. "Is this in response to something I said or something you're trying to get ahead of?" Cassandra blinked like I'd spoken in Morse code. "Not at all," she chirped. "This is about evolution. Culture, harmony," I declined, politely. No raised voice, no sarcastic sting. Just a calm level. "I'll stick with my current title, thanks. If I wanted to disappear, I'd retire, not pivot." Cassandra's mouth twitched, like her teeth were trying to escape the lie. That same week, Emma stopped making eye contact completely. Not even the accidental hallway glance. She moved around the office like she was dodging ghosts. Once, I walked into the copy room and she spun around so fast she knocked over a box of toner. Didn't even apologize. Just mumbled something and bolted. Then came Marcus, one of the mid-level managers with the spine of a damp napkin. Cornered me outside the parking garage after work. "Hey, Olivia," he said, scratching the back of his neck like a kid caught sneaking out of detention. "I don't know all the details, but this wasn't supposed to get messy. You were respected. Everyone knows that." I raised an eyebrow. Then why was I erased before anyone could blink? He didn't answer, just looked down at his shoes and let the wind finish the conversation. Meanwhile, Cora was playing chess behind the scenes. She'd already filed a supplemental request through the EOC for Slack exports, personnel review notes, and HR team chat logs. The agency had sent a formal inquiry, not a subpoena this time, but a gentle knock. HR responded by canceling 3 leadership meetings, quietly realigning internal roles, and locking down document access on the internal portal. But it was too late. The data was already in motion. Copies already secured. Messages already flagged. I knew how these things went. The real damage wasn't done in the blow, it was in the cover-up. In the panic-patched jobs and nervous whispers. The way people stopped saying your name out loud, like it might trigger something legal in the air. And while they scrambled to patch leaks with duct tape and wellness webinars, I sat calmly at my desk, logged my hours, answered emails, gave feedback on a project plan Emma barely understood, because the train was already moving, and they were about 3 stops too late to get off. Cora called at 7:42 a.m. sharp, her version of champagne and confetti. We got it, she said, no preamble. 2 emails. One directly from HR to the selection committee with your age in bold font like it was a liability report. Another from Emma, joking that you still use Excel like it's 2009. She let that sit for a beat. Let me chew on it. You want the rest? She asked. Hit me. There's one line in the HR thread, subject line, candidate viability overview. It says, quote, while Olivia has tenure, she lacks long-term scalability. We'd recommend a candidate aligned with generational fit and tech literacy. I didn't say anything. Just stared at the steam curling off my coffee like it was trying to escape this hell with me. You have a case, Cora said. A good one. A loud one if we want it. Even if they throw money, we're not signing anything that lets them bury this. Your choice, Olivia. I didn't need time to think. I already knew. I wasn't after vengeance for myself anymore. I was after accountability carved in stone. Back at work, the change was instant. It started as whispers. Not the juicy kind, no one wanted to say anything too loud, but the kind that hum like static through hallways. You could feel the temperature drop in meetings. HR folks suddenly acted like I had radiation poisoning. Cassandra started carrying a legal pad everywhere, like paper would save her. One afternoon, I caught Marcus from earlier, squinting at me like he was trying to figure out if I had a gun or a gospel tucked in my purse. He looked like he wanted to say something. I looked like I'd let him drown before I tossed a rope. We both stayed quiet. The internal bridge between departments burned, scorched, ashes blowing across Slack threads. Even junior staff could tell something had ruptured. One intern asked in a meeting, hey, what does generational alignment mean on this slide? And the whole call went dead silent like a bomb had gone off behind the PowerPoint. Emma, meanwhile, had become a ghost. No more perky coffee chats. No more pep talks about inspiring innovation. I passed her in the hall one day and she flinched so hard she dropped her tablet. Didn't even pick it up right away, just stared at it like it might explode. And me? I said nothing, not a word. I came in, I did my job, I took notes. I smiled when appropriate and sipped my lukewarm tea like a woman watching a building she never liked finally burn to the ground. People don't know what to do with silence. They expect rage, drama, a table flip. But silence scares them. It makes them wonder how much you know, how deep the hole is, how close they are to falling in. I wasn't shouting. I didn't need to. My silence was a siren and they were already sinking. The first offer came wrapped in legal silk and HR desperation. Cora forwarded it with the subject line, attempt #1, 6 figures, taxable, private settlement. NDA thicker than a Bible. Buried in the language, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, no internal consequence, and a clause that would bar me from ever consulting in the industry again. I read it once. Closed the document, reopened it, laughed out loud. I'd seen better apologies and breakup texts from men who thought deodorant was a personality. Cora's exact words, they're trying to buy your silence with guilt money and a gag order. They're not buying a damn thing, I said. Not unless they throw in the head of the dragon. The next day, Cora submitted our counter. We wanted 3 things: immediate termination of the HR director for cause, a public-facing internal memo sent to all staff acknowledging age-based bias in the promotion process and outlining policy reform. No NDA. I would say whatever the hell I wanted, wherever and whenever I wanted. That memo was non-negotiable. I wasn't leaving behind a silent battlefield. I wanted the scorch marks to stay. Their lawyers balked. Sent back a dozen variations. Each time, they shaved off accountability like it was fat from a steak. Could we call it a reallocation? Would Olivia accept a confidential disciplinary note instead? Does she really need to consult afterward? Cora just leaned back and said, we'll wait. And wait we did. 3 weeks of boardroom back and forth. HR tried to throw middle managers under the bus. One exec offered to personally mediate a healing session. Another suggested I come back in a strategic advisory capacity, which is rich coming from the same man who once mistook me for a temp and asked me to get him coffee. But they were bleeding. Bad press was circling. Internally, word was leaking like a punctured pipe under pressure. Someone forwarded us a screenshot, anonymous of course, of Cassandra pacing in the parking lot, chain smoking like she was reenacting a crime scene confession. Then came the meeting invite, final settlement review Olivia B. They agreed every word, every term. The HR director would be terminated effective immediately. The internal memo would be sent to all staff with clear language acknowledging inappropriate bias in leadership selection. No NDA, they didn't do it because it was right. They did it because they were scared of what I'd say if they didn't. And me? I waited, didn't gloat, didn't strut, just poured myself a drink and stared at the company letterhead in the memo draft. I'd written memos for them for over 2 decades. Now one with my name under it was about to detonate every lie they'd built around fairness and culture. It was never about getting promoted. It was about proving I was never the one who lacked value. They were. They walked her out at 10:07 a.m. sharp. No fanfare. No farewell sheet cake. Just two corporate security guys, and a woman who once called herself a people strategist carrying a cardboard box full of betrayal in heels that suddenly looked too loud for the floor. The office went dead quiet. Not that kind of awkward silence after a bad joke. This was funeral quiet. Monitors still on, hands frozen over keyboards, eyes pretending not to watch what everyone was watching. The HR director, Cassandra, kept her head high, but her eyes were red and her gait wobbled like she couldn't find the ground anymore. Someone said she'd cried in the elevator. Someone else said she cursed the VP to his face. All I know is she didn't look at me once. Couldn't. By noon, the memo dropped. To all staff subject, commitment to transparency and inclusion in stale corporate font, it confirmed what everyone already knew but no one had dared say. HR had failed. Leadership decisions had been influenced by non-merit-based criteria. Bias had tainted the promotional process. A new oversight policy would be implemented immediately. Trainings would follow. Blah, blah, blah. But the best line? We acknowledge that our internal processes have not met the standards of fairness and integrity we hold ourselves to, and that change begins now. Acknowledgement, not apology, not repentance. But I didn't need their guilt. I had their signature. Cora called later that afternoon with the final wire confirmation. 12 years worth of salary. No NDA, taxed as a settlement, not income. Clean, you're a legend, she said. I'm retired, I corrected, sipping tea like it was victory served warm. I didn't pack my things right away. Let the day move around me like I wasn't there. Let Emma fidget 3 desks away like her seat had grown thorns. She kept glancing over like maybe I'd say something. I didn't. At 4:45 I stood up. No speech. No scene. Just grabbed my mug, slid open the bottom drawer of my desk and took out the little plant I'd kept alive longer than half the interns. Walked to the front, slow and steady, while people tried not to look. At the security gate, I pulled off my badge, old plastic, chipped at the corner, and dropped it into the recycling bin with a soft clink. Emma was walking in from the other side. We locked eyes for half a breath. She opened her mouth, probably to offer some limp corporate condolence. I kept walking because I didn't need a send-off. I didn't need the promotion. I built my own exit on their dime. What hits hardest here isn't the payout, it's the silence she weaponized. In an age of oversharing and instant reactions, Olivia played it slow, cold, and precise. It's a reminder that sometimes the smartest move isn't yelling into the storm, it's studying the wind. Then flipping the whole damn forecast. Appreciate you sticking around, you legends of the break room. Subscribe for more chaos. Let's make your old managers spill their coffee in fear.